You know, you don't mess up with a country's sovereignty. We know that. We've seen that elsewhere in the world. Well, you just don't mess up with our sovereignty. Canada's sovereignty is not up for debate, and we had a long conversation on tariffs and trade. We had a very long conversation, the Secretary and I wanted to be able to have a frank conversation with him. Of course, Canada's sovereignty is not up for debate, and we had a long conversation on tariffs and trade. Saying, no, it's not a joke. It's not. This is a very serious threat. And you know, you don't mess up with a country's sovereignty. We know that. We've seen that elsewhere in the world. Well, you just don't mess up with our sovereignty. We were able to find strong G7 unity on a variety of issues that were discussed, and one that I would like to highlight in particular is the one linked to Ukraine. All G7 foreign ministers agree with the U.S. proposal of a ceasefire that is supported by Ukrainians, and we are now studying and looking at the Russian reaction. So ultimately, the ball is now in Russia's court. The approach when it comes to a relationship with the U.S., and through my conversation with the Secretary, was we will put maximum pressure on the Americans. And meanwhile, we'll work on finding off-ramps. Because we know ultimately at the end of the day, the Trump tariffs are going to hurt Americans. But I get your point that Canadians are anxious. And there is a real fear of people across the country of losing their jobs and their families of being able to have access to decent livelihoods. And so that's why I feel the urgency, and the team feels the urgency of making sure that we are putting maximum pressure on the American administration, the Trump administration, while conveying to the American people, who are the only ones that can ultimately really have President Trump change course, to say to them, well, this is bad for you too. And to all the American friends here today, my message is clear. Trump tariffs are bad for American people.